Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. President Donald Trump says he will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin on August the 15th in Alaska to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine. He announced on social media that the parties, including Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, are close to a ceasefire deal that could require Ukraine to surrender significant territory. It comes as Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke with the leaders of China, India and 3 ex-Soviet states about his contacts with the US on the war in Ukraine. Trump's administration have placed 50% tariffs on India over the purchase of Russian oil, with threats made for other nations doing the same. UN Chief Antonio Guterres criticised Israel's plan to take control of Gaza City, calling it a dangerous escalation that would force Palestinians from their homes. Benjamin Netanyahu says his military is going to free Gaza from Hamas. Azerbaijan and Armenia signed a US-brokered peace deal during a meeting with President Donald Trump aiming to boost economic ties and move towards full normalization after decades of conflict. The deal marks the first resolution of the conflict since the Cold War. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva signed into law a bill easing environmental licensing rules but vetoed dozens of provisions. Nicknamed the Devastation Bill by environmentalists, it weakens environmental controls and gives states more power to issue licenses for new developments. At least one person has died and homes and farmlands have been destroyed as wildfires fueled by gale force winds have broken out across Greece. In the town of Kariata, southwest of Athens, firefighters found the body of an elderly man in a burned out building. American astronaut Jim Lovell, commander of the ill-fated 1970 Apollo 13 mission, has died at the age of 97. Lovell was portrayed by Tom Hanks in the 1995 film Apollo 13, which told the story of the mission's near disaster after an onboard explosion. And the US Commerce Department has begun issuing licenses to NVIDIA to export its H20 chips to China, removing a major hurdle to the AI giant's access to a key market. This follows last month's reversal of a ban on the chip. But we start this hour with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and US President Donald Trump will meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska on August the 15th, aiming to broker an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump announced the summit on social media, calling it highly anticipated. It will be their first face-to-face meeting since Trump's return to the White House in January. The talks come as Trump says a ceasefire deal is close, one that could involve Ukraine giving up significant territory. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov says discussions will focus on a long-term peaceful resolution, but warns the process will be challenging. Meanwhile, Trump says Ukraine and Russia a peace deal will involve territorial land swaps. Let's listen in to what the president had to say.
Meeting very shortly with President Putin. It would have been sooner, but I guess there's security arrangements that unfortunately people have to make. Otherwise, I'd do it much quicker. He would too. He'd like to meet as soon as possible. I agree with it. But we'll be announcing that very shortly, okay? And location. You know, a lot of Russians have died. A lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. And but we'll be talking about that either later or tomorrow or whatever.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Ukraine ceasefire depends on the right pressure on Russia. Let's now listen to the Ukrainian president.
Ми активну нашу переговорну роботу з партнерами, щоб була спільна позиція заради надійного миру для України. Дійсно реального миру, якщо всі однаково будуть сприймати можливості та загрози, тоді вдасться досягти саме сталого миру. Вже багато підтримки, і це підтримка в нових умовах, коли озвучений дедлайн для Росії для припинення вогню.
Well, joining us to discuss this significant announcement of a date that has now been confirmed for this meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump is retired Major General Sudhakar Ji, a senior geopolitical and strategic defence expert who's joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us, Major General. Significant because this meeting has now been announced. Trump saying that there is momentum towards a ceasefire deal, but we have been here before. Do you think this truly is now a turning point towards peace in the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Good morning, Joshua. Thank you for getting me to your show. Right at the outset, I must tell you that your voice is breaking, but I can still make the sense of the question that you're asking. This is a very significant, long-awaited visit or meeting which has been planned, and we hope and pray that this fructifies as it has been indicated through your channel and other news channels as well. Because it's about time this mindless conflict must come to an end. So having said that, all I would say at this juncture is that it's a very difficult proposition. Trump has already indicated that the land occupied by Russia has to be foregone or it is to be given away. These are all difficult questions when it actually brings in the factor of sovereignty and territorial integrity of a nation. And we hope that something meaningful and substantive comes about into realism. For that, my strong recommendation through your channel and through you is best way to stop a conflict which has been raging for past 4 years is to stop it wherever one is. That is, as is, where is. Just simply freeze. Bring some kind of a stoppage to the ongoing conflict for some days. And thereafter, the formal ceasefire can commence. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely. I hope that the signal issues improve, Major General. I'll keep this question short. What does it take for Donald Trump to push Putin towards a ceasefire?
My take on the whole issue is that the real problem of the Russia invading into Ukraine has to be understood. Why did Russia invade into Ukraine? You have to look back in time, what happened from 2014 and before that. The real aggression, expansion and insecurities have been shown and demonstrated by none other than NATO forces. And take your mind back to James Baker, who went on a personal meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev on 9th of February 1990. And he went to the extent of assuring Mikhail Gorbachev to mitigate his apprehension that not an inch will the sphere of influence of NATO will expand to the east of the East Germany, not only East Germany, entire frontier of Europe. Contrary to that, at that point in time, while the founding members were 12, it had gone up to 16 in 90 and 91, and now you have 32 members in NATO. So where does the rationale and logic and the fundamental factor of trust lie? Therefore, what I'm saying is, the beginning would be, meaningful and effective beginning would be, that Donald Trump makes a commitment, no hardware, no military guns, satellites, or any kind of weapon system or ammunition will be provided, no funding will be given to Ukraine, one. No European country or the NATO member should provide any kind of support, military support I'm talking of. That is the clear indication to Russia, and so that Russia has not been the aggressor. Russia has actually been triggered. It has been forced to, compelled to take some action to defend itself. So when I ask that question, what happened? Why did Russia invade Ukraine? You need to actually study the details and come to a conclusion that the Russian origin people, they were denied the basic means of communication in their own language. They were actually subjected to mayhem and I would say subjudicial killing by the people. So somebody had to come to their rescue. So that's all I have for the time being. Back to you, please, if you have any other question.
Yes, Major General, thank you very much for your time on that topic. We will, of course, continue to monitor the developments ahead of that peace talk, looking further into that reaction from Volodymyr Zelensky as well. But we now move towards the Middle East. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing back against criticism over his new plan for Gaza, declaring on X that Israel does not intend to occupy the territory. He wrote, "We are not going to occupy Gaza. We are going to free Gaza from Hamas." Under the plan approved by his security cabinet, the Israeli army will take control of Gaza City, demilitarize the strip and create what he called a peaceful civilian administration. One that is neither Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, nor any other group Israel labels as a terrorist organisation. Netanyahu says this will help free hostages and prevent future threats. Meanwhile, global condemnations are pouring in. Germany, a key Israeli ally, has halted military exports over concerns they could be used in Gaza, a move Netanyahu slammed as a reward for Hamas. Well, joining us to discuss the reactions after this announcement that came through, of course, yesterday, a confirmation of that security cabinet approval and an expansion of Israeli military activity in the Gaza Strip. We're joined by Dr. Alvite Ningtejam, who is a Deputy Director and Assistant Professor at the Symbiosis School of International Studies, who joins us live from Pune in India. Dr. Ningtejam, thank you ever so much for your time. Let's first look at Benjamin Netanyahu's comments. He's saying that they are freeing Gaza. Do you see it as that way?
Joshua, I cannot hear you clearly. Your audio was cracking badly on my side. If you can come back to me again.
Apologies, Dr. Ningtejam, we're having some issues on that front. I'll keep it short. Netanyahu says he is freeing Gaza. Do you agree with him?
Well, if I can pick, hear you correctly, you're asking me about the statement given by Benjamin Netanyahu that this is not going to be a complete takeover. This is a very, I would say, sensitive issue, which is which is going on in Gaza Strip right now. That the cabinet has given a full takeover of the Gaza Strip with the purpose of defeating Hamas, meaning that there could also be other subsequent operations even if in the days to come. It remains. To me, it's again a very problematic developments right now in this part of Israel and in this part of the world over the issue of how this the war could come to an end. But everybody has been discussing ever since we have heard this the breaking news about the possibility of further deterioration in the law and order situation inside. Already there are very serious problems, but we are also sensing that this could lead to further de-escalation of the region, both for the Gazans as well as for the Israelis. It also talks a lot about how there are lots of internal rifts which are going on inside Israel between the politicians and the military security leadership. So how much Benjamin Netanyahu would walk by his words that it will not be a permanent takeover of Gaza Strip by the Israelis and giving that leadership or the governance to an international body, that remains to be seen. But it is a very sensitive issue.
Yes, Dr. Ningtejam, I hope you can hear me okay. What will be the impact of this expansion on the people of Gaza, who are already, by many reports and through many organisations, saying that the struggle is horrific, with famine a risk, with also civilian deaths, displacement, all the things that have been reported for months now?
Can you come back again, Joshua? There was completely distortion in the audio.
I'm extremely sorry, Dr. Nintajam. What does this expansion mean for the people of Gaza?
Okay, if you're asking me about the impact of this announcement on the people of Gaza.
Yes.
Yeah, it is of course going to be one. Firstly, it is going to, I would say, bridge the misunderstandings between the two sides, the warring parties. Already there are lots of fragilities in this situation inside Gaza Strip right now because the ceasefire talks and any form of communication between the two sides have not met with some breakthrough in the last month or a half. We have seen it's only the deterioration of the situation inside the Strip. And the larger question is, where are these Gazans, going forward from here? So again, that is going to be quite problematic for all the rehabilitation programs which has been done by the regional as well as the international community or organizations. For the Gazans themselves, it's again, it will add another layer of problem to them. And at the same time, the Israelis, again, I mentioned in my previous assessment that there are already lots of internal rifts and internal, resentments and discords about this new move made by the Prime Minister or the cabinet allowing the takeover. So this is going to lead to further, I would say, the complexity of the crisis will be compounded because of this. And then we already are seeing the reactions coming from different parts of the world, UN, and at the same time, some of the countries in Europe have also started talking about suspending some sort of trade. I think Germany has come out saying that we are going to stop arms supplies to Israel that could be used to Gaza Strip. So these are some of the international repercussions that could befall on Israel. At the same time, the Gazans will also have a problem for themselves.
Yes, Dr. Nintajam, you will be staying with us as we move on now, but remain talking about Israel. And this comes as the UN Security Council will hold a rare session this Saturday to discuss Israel's plan to seize control of Gaza. Earlier, we had the Palestinian diplomats urge the UN Council to act immediately on Israel's expansion plan. He also warned that this move would deepen the humanitarian catastrophe. Let's listen in to those comments. Well, we can't unfortunately hear those comments, but the spokesperson for the UN Secretary General also called it a dangerous escalation that could worsen the situation for millions of Palestinians and further endanger lives, including hostages. Let's hopefully listen in to what she had to say. Unfortunately, we are facing some issues, but France has also condemned the plan strongly and said that it would breach international law and undermine a two-state solution. It could also threaten regional stability. Iran has also denounced the plan, accusing Israel of attempting to ethnically cleanse Gaza and commit genocide. This all comes as a result of the Israel Security Cabinet's approval to take over the Gaza city as part of its nearly 2-year military campaign in the enclave. Well, we once again joined back with Dr. Alvit Nintajam. Thank you for rejoining us, Doctor. Let's look at this meeting, of course, coming after this announcement. Do you think this will see any impact on Israel's military objectives?
Joshua, I'm sorry to repeat this again. I completely lost you. Yeah, I could only hear a very cracked
No problem at all, Dr. Nintajam. We will move on, but thank you ever so much for your time on that topic. Apologies for the issues we are facing. Moving on, and after decades of conflict, Armenia and Azerbaijan have signed a US-brokered peace agreement at the White House, with President Donald Trump calling it a historic friendship after 35 years of fighting. The deal commits both countries to end hostilities, open diplomatic relations and respect each other's territorial integrity. Trump announced separate agreements on energy, technology and defence cooperation with both nations. Speaking at the signing, this is what the US President stated.
Armenia and Azerbaijan are committing to stop all fighting forever, open up commerce, travel, and diplomatic relations, and respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So lifting restrictions on defense cooperation between Azerbaijan and the United States of America. The president, that's a big deal. Unless, is that important to you? I think so. That was pretty good. They're very happy about that. So am I.
Well, experts say the deal could transform the region, but warn that lasting peace will depend on continued US involvement and could anger Moscow, long a dominant player in the area. Both the leaders have praised Donald Trump's continued efforts in the peace process, calling it a significant milestone. Nikol Pashinyan, the Armenian president, said the following.
Today we have reached a significant milestone in Armenia-Azerbaijani relations. We're laying a foundation to write a better story than the one we had in the past. This breakthrough would be simply not have been possible without President Trump's personal engagement and his resolute commitment to peace in our region.
We move on now to South America, where Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says the country will use all available means, including the World Trade Organization, to defend its interests against new US tariffs. Speaking in Brasilia, he said that in 2025, Brazil will resort to every possible measure to protect its trade interests. Lula added that the government had already been taking steps to boost foreign trade and create new opportunities for local companies before the change of administration in Washington. Let's hear what Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva had to say.
Vou dizer para vocês, empresários que exportam, companheiros das cooperativas que exportam, castanheiros que exportam, criadores e pescadores de tilápia que exportam, pode ter certeza do seguinte: o governo brasileiro não quer ser mais do que ninguém, mas não quer ser menos do que ninguém.
Well, Lula said he would not call US President Donald Trump to discuss the issue, as his counterpart does not want to talk. However, he did announce plans to call Trump to invite him to COP30, the UN climate change conference in November, which is to be held in Belém Pará. Lula told that, rest assured, Trump will be called to be invited to COP30 and to have his views on the climate issue. The call will be made with courtesy, he says. Let's listen again to the Brazilian president.
Esse moleque é traidor de 215 bilhões de brasileiros com os prejuízos que os Estados Unidos estão dando a esse país. O presidente dos Estados Unidos aprenda a respeitar a soberania desse país. Aprenda a respeitar a soberania e autonomia do Poder Judiciário brasileiro.
Well, during a meeting of the Council for Sustainable Economic and Social Development at the Presidential Palace, Lula told that if Trump does not attend, it will be as he doesn't want to, not because of any lack of courtesy. He will be invited. Well, that is all we have time for, but we will be back with more of the latest international updates.